If you had read the agenda, you would have known we were starting at 7:30 tonight, but we do apologize for the delay. We're a little bit behind, so I do apologize. We're reconvening the public session. Any reports from the city attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item number 1, there was no reportable action. There was a council update. Item number 2, council was updated, but no reportable action. Item number 3, settlement authority was provided to the city manager. Item number 4, labor negotiator, and item number 5, performance evaluation were not discussed in closed session. The labor negotiator, both matters were continued to the end of the agenda.
And moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Grunmeyer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is Samuel here? Samuela? Robin, would you do the honors?
If you guys will join me in a word of prayer, please. Lord, we come to you this evening thankful for our community. We're thankful for the opportunity to be able to gather and take care of the work of our organization. Lord, we're thankful for the staff that work diligently for our community and on behalf of our residents. We're thankful for our residents that are engaged and involved in our community and volunteering and making this such a wonderful and special place to live. We pray, Lord, that as so many folks are out traveling and on vacation, that you would keep folks safe and healthy, and that everyone would enjoy these last few weeks of summer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We're now going to have some presentations. So like a bad penny, somebody's back. Just kidding. So tonight, the City Council would like to formally introduce our newest captain. Not so new. Captain Justin Rowan began his career with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office in 1995 as a community service officer and promoted to the rank of Deputy Sheriff in 1999, where he patrolled the contract city of Temecula. He transitioned from the Southwest Corridor Narcotics Task Force to Ben Clark Training Center as a recruit training officer until he was promoted to sergeant and was transferred to the Europa Valley Station in 2008, where he supervised numerous assignments and teams. 2017, Captain Rowan was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and transferred to the Palm Desert Station, but later returned to Europa Valley Station in 2019, where he oversaw the patrol operations for unincorporated county areas, school resource officers, field training officers, special enforcement team, detective bureau, burglary suppression team, the domestic violence investigation team, and the city of Norco. This was an era when he never slept. We would like to congratulate Captain Rowan on his recent promotion as commander of the Europa Valley Station, serving the cities of Eastvale, Europa Valley, and Norco, as well as the surrounding unincorporated communities. Captain Rowan resides in Riverside with his wife, and they have a blended family of 4 daughters and 2 grandchildren. We are happy to have you serving the community of Norco as our captain. Can you come on up and say a few words?
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. It feels a little odd to come here and introduce myself to you, since I feel like we're kind of family at this point. I mean, I think I first landed in Norco as a sergeant in 2009-ish, and I kind of have been back every couple years since then. So coming to Norco is just like coming home for me, really. But it was a huge honor to get a call from the sheriff and to be told that I was being promoted, and it was even a bigger blessing for him to tell me that I was staying at the Europa Valley Station. So I'm happy to be back. I'll try and keep it short tonight, but Norco for me has got a very special place in my heart. I mean, I've been around this entire county from north, south, east, west, and the truth is, and everybody should be proud, there really is no better city no better city staff, council, and community. It's a great city. It's a great place to work, and we're happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. And as I've said 1,000 times, every deputy, sergeant, lieutenant that we send to this assignment, they pretty much go kicking and screaming. So if it's not a special assignment or a promotion that they're leaving for, they kind of want to stay here as long as they can. So you should all be proud for the environment that you provide. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be back. Thank you. Picture.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed your lemonade stand. I got the notice too late.
Oh, you're taking a picture. I am. How we doing? Thank you. And the good news is Lieutenant Hall's on vacation, so I'm going to be here throughout the evening.
All right, now one of my favorite proclamations. I was a Park and Rec Commissioner for 10 years, and so parks are very near and dear to my heart. So the City Council is recognizing July as Parks Make Life Better Month with a proclamation that recognizes our parks, community services, and facilities who have contributed to making life better for our community. I'm going to read a little bit of the proclamation. Whereas parks, community services, and facilities sustain and steward our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parkland, and parks, community services, and facilities support safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in their recreational opportunities, and parks, community services, and facilities remain versatile and innovative in providing vital services to communities throughout local, national, and global emergencies, all while adhering to guidelines set forth by governing agencies. The California Park and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now therefore, I, Kevin Bash, Mayor of the City of Norco, and on behalf of the Norco City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2024 as Parks Make Life Better Month. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming this evening, Parks and Recreation Commissioners. In recognition of Parks Make Life Better, I would like to invite up the following community services and facilities maintenance team members to accept the proclamation. First off, Park and Recreation people, stand up. Do we got two? These are our commissioners. Just so we know who they are. So Tiffany Gordon, Crystal Foster, Noah Calderon, Cindy Garcia, Alejandro Gonzalez Marshall, Todd Shank, Cesar Tali Ila Yatsi. I practiced. How close was I? Tali La Yatsi. Oh, Anthony Balderas, Frank Alvarez, and Amanda Hamilton. So I want to, and then I missed somebody here. I'm just kidding. No, seriously, I want to bring Julie up. And I believe she's going to say a couple of words, correct? No? Oh, that's right, it's the next one. So anyway, does anybody want to say a few words? You're just going to stand there. All right. Well, come on, Alejandra.
Community Services Coordinator. So good evening, Mayor, Council, members of our community. It's truly an honor to serve with such dedicated individuals and with such dedicated volunteers and a supportive council to provide services to the Norco community. Thank you all for your support. I want to introduce, we have a new sports coordinator over at Riley Gym, and he'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Noah Calderon, as I said, and I'm the new sports coordinator over at Riley Gym, where it is my duty to now make sure that the Riley Gym is a safe place for young athletes in our community to develop new skills and cultivate a love for sports. Our facilities and parks serve not only as spaces for children to grow and learn, but also as venues for our residents of all ages and backgrounds to socialize and stay active. They're definitely a place for families to create lasting memories, whether they're just enjoying a day at a park or enjoying some of our special events that we get to put on. All in all, parks allow us to develop physically, mentally, and socially, and it's definitely our privilege to get to do that for our community members and continue to make life better. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello all, I'm Todd Shank, I'm the park superintendent. I've been here for about 4.5 years and we've grown tremendously in that amount of time on the maintenance side. We have a lot of new bodies, a lot of new talent, and it's a fun place to work. We got a lot of work to do, but we're making progress. It may not always look that way, but we're making progress. So it's coming along. We're spending money in a good way, diligently, and needed. So thank you, appreciate it.
Anyone else? So let me present this. Why don't we just, why don't we come over here? Why don't we bring the commissioners, park rec commissioners, come on up. You guys stand up back. There you go. Thank you guys. Thank you for all your really appreciate it.
And Mayor, if I may, Michelle England is home watching, and she says to tell you all she's super proud. So
The camera's over there. I want the council. Everybody wave at Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Come on up. Talk about volunteers.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Julie Castellanos. I'm the City of Norco's volunteer coordinator. Tonight, I am here to present about volunteer opportunities in our community. At a recent city council meeting, Councilmember Berwin Hanna stated he would like to see the City of Norco support Norco's volunteer-run events, nonprofit organizations in recruiting the next generation of volunteers that have a heart for Norco. We are happy to share a new handout that we have prepared, which promotes the city's existing volunteer opportunities on one side and now promotes the Norco Fair, Norco Horse Week, and Mounted Posse on the back. We plan to distribute this handout at city events, facilities, and other functions that attract potential volunteers. The QR code and website will lead interested parties to the Norco's online application. From this page, a person can start a new application and select as many volunteer choices as they like. Here you can see we need volunteers for community events, recreation programs, animal shelters, youth sports, NART, Citizens on Patrol, Senior Center, and Historic Preservation. Since COVID, we have noticed that our volunteer hours and new recruits have been down, and we hope that this handout will help attract new volunteers that love Norco and want to continue the tradition of rodeos and community events. We plan to roll this promotion out immediately at upcoming events. Postcards are also available tonight in the lobby and are at city facilities. We have also included both graphics in the upcoming Norco Fair book, which is mailed to all residents. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hi, yes, this is great. My only question is, and this might be to go to communications who made it, but can we get these both sides as a social media post so that folks can share it on their Instagram or their Facebook and help spread the information?
I'll definitely speak to Kelly about it tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is wonderful. Thank you for
Thank
all the
you.
work on this.
Talk about your volunteer dinner that you put on every year for everyone and the great job that you do.
Thank you. Every year in May, we celebrate our volunteers. We do a dinner and a show and gifts, and raffles to celebrate and thank them for all their hard work that they put into the community.
I have a grass skirt since the last one.
Perfect.
Yeah. Berwin, anything?
No.
No? Anybody else?
Kevin, I was just gonna say, don't get the musician with that white van again, okay? The magician.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah. It's all right. We had the fire department there and the medics. All right. Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you very much.
We're now going to move on to City Council reports on regional boards. We'll start with Robin Grunmeyer.
All right, so an exciting report from our Eat Ag Subcommittee. The California Secretary of Agriculture came to Norco on July 9th, and the visit was really to highlight what we are trying to do as far as small plot agriculture goes in Norco and build an awareness across the state about Norco and the unique opportunities that folks have to have small farms in their backyard. So EAT helped host the visit, and so in the picture on the left-hand side, we have Chris and Patrick from EAT. We have the secretary there and one of the state board members. Rochelle is there, Lori and Kevin, and then we have two of our newest local farmers in the picture as well. So it was a very, very good visit for the day, and we were able to get the secretary to several spots in Norco. And I believe she was pretty impressed with what we have going on in the community. But it was a good day for Norco and a good day for agriculture in Norco for sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing to report today. Thank you.
And Hannah?
Yeah, the commissions hadn't done much this month. On Sunday, we had a call out to assist the veterinarian with a horse that was down in a stall, big draft horse in a 12x12 stall. They're pretty heavy anyway, and when they're tired and wore out, it's almost impossible to move one of them. So the vet told us that we could leave for a couple of hours and let him rest and go back. So we took our ambulance and went down to Hidden Valley to the park for Casey's benefit ride, and luckily nothing happened to anybody there. Then we went back over in the bluffs there where that horse was, and they had removed the wall. And that time we were able to get him outside and let him rest a little while. And eventually, about an hour later, he got up on his own. But, I mean, we got the call at 7 o'clock in the morning. He'd probably been down for 3 or 4 hours then. But he was gentle, so he didn't fight. He was just tired, but he's still up and eating and happy. So thank you.
Thank you, Berwin.
Let's see, last week attended the Chino Basin DeSalto Authority Board of Directors meeting. Not too much stuff. Basically went over financial affairs and different budget and treasurer's reports. So that's all I had this last month. Thank you.
A couple of things. First off, the Western Riverside County Conservation Authority, we had some pretty interesting things at our last meeting. RCA, the reason for the RCA is because back in the old days, because of the kangaroo rat almost specifically, but other wildlife and animal corridors, they came up with a plan in which you could build in one area, but then you could purchase or support land in what we call the corridors. And so we're trying to link wildlife corridors from open space to open space to open space. Since the plan came into existence, to date we've acquired 69,977 acres of additional reserve lands, and our goal is 153,000. early in 2023, we've paused willing sellers. And a willing seller is somebody that willingly wants to sell the property. The problem is that we now have a situation where some of the sellers are being represented by somebody that is, they're forcing us to buy the property. The plan has a flaw. And the flaw is they can come back, have it basically reappraised, and we have to pay that amount, which is really causing some problems. So we've initiated a strategic improvement assessment plan. And the bottom line is we're currently challenged by the fact that we're forced to buy certain properties that are very expensive and may not have the most conservative value. This land's in tandem with federal and state agencies, and so when the plan was developed, these were the corridors that were picked. Some of those corridors are now totally disrupted. They're by freeways, but if the willing seller says, hey, you've got to buy the land because it's in the corridor, we're forced to pay inflated prices. And so it's really a mess, and oddly, it could bankrupt us. And the state and federal wildlife agencies are the ones that are not willing to let us tweak the plan, but we're in the process of trying to do that. So when the time comes, I'm hoping council will kind of begin to give a hand in that. And then the MSHEP, which is the plan, the 20th anniversary is in October, and the exact date will follow, but the plan is it's going to be at the Hidden Valley Nature Preserve, and we hope to have the state and federal Department of the Interior director here, and it's going to be a lot of fun to say, look at the view, do you like it? Enjoy it. It's the last time you'll see it, because they're going to put a bunch of lines up there, and I'm hoping, I'm just not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing as hard as I can. And then Cal City's regional meeting was a little bit disturbing. We had a man named Corey Hone, who's the executive director of the Cal Budget and Policy Center. I'm the co-chair, but I didn't select this speaker, but I'm glad I heard him, and actually I think it's one of the reasons why maybe we need to consider staying in the League of Cities so we know what's happening, or at least somehow keep our hand in. But in essence, it's very clear the state of California is looking for inroads to try to undermine Prop 13. And one of the conversations that happened is that I said, well, when Prop 13 came along, people lost their homes. And he said, well, maybe we would have a threshold, that under that threshold, you'd be safe. I said, well, I paid $195 for my house. It's now worth well over $1 million. Where would my threshold be? Right now, my taxes are $4,000 to $6,000 a year. You go to $800,000. He said, $800,000 sounds good. I said, well, now you're paying $24,000, $30,000 a year. People can't afford that. So anyway, there's that push coming. And then the other thing which really surprised me was made mention of the fact that we're getting ready to lose a whole bunch of tech jobs. And he said, that's okay. He said, they're still paying taxes in the state of California. I didn't understand the logic, and then I kind of had to turn over to other people. But next year, I should be the chair of that, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. And then finally, I'm going to Cal Cities, because Lori and I were there. And once again, I have to compliment Lori, because you know everybody. It's amazing how many people know you. And it's nice if you stand next to her, everybody comes up to you and wants to talk to her. So anyway, Prop 36 is the antidote to Prop 47. Chad Bianco spoke, and 47, of course, is the one that there's a threshold so that, if you don't steal too much or you have that third strike against you, you don't really get in trouble. 36 is actually the antidote to that. And it would be tougher penalties, it would curb drugs and theft, and surprisingly, the mayor of San Francisco is for this. The problem is the way that the Attorney General has worded it, it sounds like you should say no, but you need to say yes if you want 47 to kind of lose the effect. It's part of the reason why we have so many problems. And then the other one that he mentioned is Prop 6, which would ban involuntary servitude and forced labor in prisons. This will probably pass, maybe. But the problem is most people don't understand that if all of a sudden you have to pay prisoners $20 an hour minimum wage, which is $18, plus you have to pay all the extra taxes on top of that, then you will have a situation which will bankrupt the prison system, which Chad says that's basically what they want to do. I'm not sure if they do or they don't, but one of the issues that my brother brought up as a deputy sheriff is that there will be people, you already have people that will throw a brick through a glass window so they can get their teeth fixed. They incarcerate them and they get their teeth fixed because it's free. So you could have a situation where somebody can't get a job, so they break the glass and they go to work at the prison, they get $18 an hour, plus they get all the stuff that normally people get. And what that does is it's sort of one line that wants to remove slavery in the state of California, which we've never had slavery. It was actually a preemptive move. I looked it up. But if this happens, it very well could put the state prison system completely out of commission. So that's the only thing I have. So if you have a mind, look up Prop 6, see how you want to vote, and look up Prop 36. 36 has the backing of it. Well, it started with Mike Hester and the district attorneys who were very frustrated. And with that, we will move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mayor. This is the time when persons wishing to address the presiding governmental body regarding the consent calendar or matters not on the agenda may be heard. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The governmental body shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comment. My first speaker is Bill Gunn.
How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Mr.
Good.
Mayor? Thank you so much, everyone, for having me tonight. I speak in this room a lot in my current position, which is actually right in that doorway right there. But I'm here tonight, and I told Mayor Bash that I wasn't going to come because I am on vacation right now and trying to enjoy the grandkids and everything. But it was important for me to show up tonight to just say thank you. I'm in these meetings a lot. I'm in this room a lot. I'm in board meetings a lot, and rarely do we hear anyone say thank you to Councilman Grunmeyer, specifically Mayor Bash, for taking my phone calls. I'm trying to build an ADU in my backyard for my mother, who's 80 years old, and it's been a frustrating process working through some of the things that I've encountered in the city. But I'm grateful that both Mayor Bash and Councilmember Grunmeyer called me, educated me, talked to me about it, worked a yes on some things, looking into some things. I do want to point out Erica Woods Diaz. She's an associate planner for you. She is absolutely amazing. She really is. She has gone out of her way to be helpful. She's gone out of her way to be informative. She's done work that doesn't even apply to her and gotten back to me in a timely manner. So I do wanted to say thank you to her in a public way. I look forward to getting this process going the right way. I know that this is an issue for the city of Norco. We're trying to do it the right way. We need to find some common ground as to how to make the process a little more seamless, because right now it's muddled. It's difficult to do, and we need to figure out a way to make this happen. I do have one question that I would like some follow-up on. I learned today from your staff that if I build the ADU at 749 square feet, the approximate taxes are about $8,000. If I build it at 750 square feet, those taxes go up to $18,000, those permit fees. So there's a $10,000 difference over 1 square foot to another. I would like to know, how do we get to that? Does that make even remote sense to anybody? That if you wanted to go 1 more square foot, it's going to cost another $10,000 in permit fees. And so there's got to be a reason for it, but no one over there has been able to give me that answer. So if someone could follow up, that would be great. Thank you again. I appreciate you. If I can be of service, I want to be a part of the solution. Reach out to me.
Thank you, Bill.
Our next
Lori, can you do me a favor? Can you let Erica know that she was complimented tonight? Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor. Our next speaker is Art Marquez.
Good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City Staff. I'm simply here today to introduce myself as the new SoCal Gas Public Affairs Manager. For those of you that worked with Leah Peterson, I will be taking over her roles and responsibilities. So as Leah did before, I hope to establish a great partnership. I look forward to working with everybody and seeing how we can better the community together. I will follow up so you guys can have my contact information, but let me be the direct contact between SoCal Gas and the City of Norco. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope you guys have a great night.
Good. A good utility company. Next.
Our next speaker is Dylan Wemple.
Hey, Dylan, how are you? Good to see you again.
It's
Yeah.
consent. Yeah, so this is it. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you. Just want to make sure. Good evening, council. Here as a resident to discuss the
Do me
generator.
a favor talking to them.
I
Thank
don't
you.
want to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's because people are watching.
Dylan Wemple here as a resident to discuss the generator plan for the cooling center. I see it's a $300,000 contract for a non-renewable resource with the diesel generator. If we could pursue solar alternatives, I know battery technology gets cheaper and cheaper over year, and solar generation could potentially offset a lot of the cooling costs that are currently being used. I know utility rates, I think it was 75 cents a kilowatt hour at peak hours. So even without the solar currently and paying for the utility rate, we're costing more month to month when we could begin to offset it and long-term save money at the cooling center. I've been pricing things out for the home. I know residential is a little bit different than commercial, but 120 kilowatt hour battery can be built for like 65,000, and then you can get solar panels. All in would be like 110,000. We'd have to pay someone to install, but at the residential side, that's what I'm looking at. So I don't know if it's been explored to look at commercial or municipal, but in the future, if projects can start to consider that, I'd like to ask that that be pursued.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joseph Turner.
Hi, Justin. How are you?
Back again.
Here from Italy?
Yeah, my family is actually. Yeah. Anyway, I too would like to thank the council and yourself, Mr. Bash, for everything that you've done for this town. I've had a chance to do a little research and looking into some of the things that you guys have done. It's incredible. It's a lot of work. I don't think a lot of folks realize that. So what I want to talk about is are the back trails. And for two reasons, and before I kind of get into it, those two reasons are important. One of them is Horsetown, USA. You know, when we get off of 6th Street, we see the big sign. I think we all can't refer to Norco without referring to Horsetown, USA. And with that, you can't really have the horses outside of the homes without the trails. A lot of detail has gone into, you know, the front trails. And it's come along really nice, but the back trails are a big problem. And which brings me to the second part of it, which is safety. There have been injuries to both the horses and, you know, the folks who've been walking on these trails. They're overgrown. It's gone as far as somebody actually dying in the community as a result of the mosquitoes that were coming out of some of the areas that water had built up into. So with that, I guess the big question, you know, that comes out is, you know, why is this a concern if the homeowners are responsible for their half of the trail? And this has come up. About a year and a half ago, I had filed a complaint here in the city. The folks out here are awesome at the city, by the way, following up with this. But I asked if I could, you know, take care and cut the trees and the bushes that were growing across the trail. And they said to give them some time to talk to the homeowners and see if there's something that they could do, you know, to get them to comply with what they're supposed to do. Well, a year and a half later, that hasn't taken place. I've walked pretty much all of these trails, as many as I could. I personally take care of about a half a block of it myself. But involved in that, there's grading, there's tree and bush trimming, and of course, sustainment of this. And to do that, we need equipment, volunteers, and time. Now, notice I didn't say anything about money. We don't need money. I think somewhere in the city, we gotta have the equipment, because I've seen it. I said myself, I'd volunteer in a heartbeat. I'm pretty good with tractors myself, and committing that kind of time, but I think we need to look into that. Maybe a little further than we're looking now, because each year they're getting worse. And again, I don't know if this is the forum for it, because I do want to also speak at the Street Trails and Utilities Commission, but what I would like to is hopefully have your ear on it and some direction.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So Lori, we are in the process of doing the back trails, so maybe connect with him in terms of that. And then also equipment, I don't know if we need it anymore, but doesn't the NHA have some equipment? Yeah, so the NHA has some equipment, they have a trailer and that kind of stuff, but we have just instituted a minimal taking care of the backyard trails. The city of Norco's taking that on. So we get with Sam and tell us where that location is. Anybody else?
Mayor, I have no further public comments for this item.
Closing public comments. Does anybody want to pull something?
Yes, I would like to pull 3G,
Yeah, me too. Anybody else?
3F.
3G and 3F. Okay. Anyone else? I hear a motion to approve the rest.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Yes, so I pulled 3F. Thank you, staff, for the work on this. And I know that we are now, when we're looking at doing our streets, we're also looking at beautifying our parkways and adding trees, which I think all of us are really excited about, as well as the neighborhoods that these are going in. So at a prior council meeting, we had a discussion and a motion and an approval to bring back a discussion on a native tree planting policy. And so looking at the trees that are on the list, there's one that is native. And so I had emailed our Director of Public Works, Chad, about there's an Oklahoma redbud, which is basically a redbud tree that's from the east, but there is a western one that's native to our area. So if it is appropriate and its roots are of the appropriate type to be planted in that area, wanted to see if we can sub that out. And if that one won't work, then they can proceed as the plan is in here. So that is my motion.
Your discussion?
I'm familiar with Oklahoma redbuds. They're gorgeous trees and they're quite hardy. I think I would leave it more for an arborist's opinion on the roots on that.
Right, and that's my motion, right? To take it back to check if the native tree would work, and if so, to use it, and if not, to use the one that is in the recommendation.
But move the item forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but with the ask if a western redbud could be substituted appropriately. If not, to proceed as is.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Mayor, if I may, I will need to check pricing, right? So assuming the price is still within what we can do. So, okay, great. I think we're clear.
Okay, please vote.
Dana, can you restate the motion, please?
It is, at this time, it's approved the cooperative funding agreement with Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District to design and construct the town and country storm drain project, subject to non-substantial changes and approval by the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with the amendment of substitute the native redbud tree with the native plant. And if, I just lost my train of thought, sorry.
I think the beginning of the text, Dana, is from 3E.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I'm in
okay.
the wrong one. Sorry, I'm embarrassed. All good.
You're fine.
There we go. 3F, sorry. That's why it. So we are adding in the amendment to include the native redbud if it is possible, and then if the cost is affordable. I'm sorry about that. Can I please have you vote on that, please? And the motion passes unanimous.
Moving on to 3G.
How I got so off.
So on the second one, thank you, Amanda.
Sorry.
No, we're on 3G.
Oh, 3G.
3G. So I don't know what your question was, but my question was in regards to that, and I had emailed you, Director Hamilton. So if you could just kind of go over where we are in terms of looking at solar and cost effectiveness and energy efficiency, that would be helpful for the public.
Yeah, so we did look at other alternative options for the generator at the senior center. Oh, excuse me. I get
That
choked
good
up about
Norco
energy
air.
efficiency.
Good Norco air.
So we did talk with our electrical engineer about the generator, and right now there is not any sort of battery pack for solar power for a commercial application. The diesel generator is a 220-gallon tank that can operate for 23 hours at full capacity. So basically, if we do have an emergency, that whole building will be powered, and we could have TVs on, we could have the air conditioner going full capacity. We are working with IREN. They are working with us on a resiliency roadmap. We had a presentation a couple council meetings ago on that. They're looking at all of our facilities and where we can make improvements. Once we have that plan, we can start implementing those, and I can really use those for grant opportunities for solar power.
Can you explain what IREN is, please?
IREN is
It's through the Western Regional Council of Governments. I'm the representative for the city of Norco for that. If you
Yes,
would it's an excellent program.
Yes, it's through the WRCOG, and it's a team of people, and they specialize in energy efficiency audits for public and private sector. They have just an amazing team that is able to put together all these presentations and really show us like graphing and the tools to illustrate how our facilities are functioning and what those deficiencies are. Galilea, who works with us, she is also from the IREN WRCOG team, and she's a fellow that we have for another year free, and she's also helping out with these projects. She's looking at our capital improvement list and seeing where we can incorporate energy efficient projects into our CIP list.
Thank you. That was my question.
Yeah.
Just so I can jump in here, because I sit on that. This is a system that cannot fail. This is a cooling system that cannot fail, because there will be people that their life would depend on having a place to go that can be cool. These are people in their 70s, 80s, they're sick. Some of them have to plug in things, and that's why this is my understanding is this is the best system.
Yes,
that's why it's so expensive.
Yes, it is the most optimal system that they have out there right now. Basically, the senior center is designated a cooling center. When the power does go out, we have to evacuate the building. So if we do have an emergency, we do need this building to be operational for our community.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that effort. And I'm actually very proud of the effort that you put into this, because it makes me feel like Norco's, because it's a top-notch system. So thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Okay, moving on to 5A.
passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now moving on to 5A. Attorney Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a matter that staff brought forward, and actually it's been a long time coming. The kickoff to it was a state law that encouraged council members to increase their compensation. It is termed compensation. It's really expense mitigation. The new law increases the amounts that council members can receive for countless hours each month of public service. Your current compensation is $550. It has been that way for 23 years. The cost of gas, food, and everything else has gone up. As you can see by the attached table of Riverside County, the City Council countywide average compensation is $1,302 a month. This is old data. Using the old data, you are almost at 1/3 of the average, but you are definitely less than half the average. We all know that council service isn't a money maker, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a money taker. You shouldn't have to go out of pocket. Unfortunately, with the readings, meetings, appearances, events, and everything done behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, being a council member costs a lot, and it's expensive in both your time and your money. So you should mitigate that. You do that by increasing compensation. One method of that provided by state law is to do a 5% straight line inflation from the last time you had a compensation increase. In this case, 5% times 23 years is 115%. That amounts to $1,182. That's still less than the county average, less than the midpoint of county, and having experience around councils, I believe that this council is one of the hardest working ones there is. So staff recommends you increase your compensation to $1,182.50 a month. Any increase in compensation would not take effect until after the next election, and I am available for any questions.
You have any questions, Robin? Catherine? Greg?
I have some questions on your fiscal impact on this. You're saying we're going to have to increase $18,900. And I'm just wondering how you came up with that number. Now, Rob, if you want, I can throw my numbers at you. So,
If I may, I think that the annual difference was $37,950. If you look up a little bit, but because this would not take effect until January of 2025, the first year implementation cost was estimated at $18,975.
okay, so I guess we're close. I had $37,920. But what's not included in this is the employer burden, CalPERS, our UAL permits or payments.
So I don't believe you guys are in the PERS. Are they in? They're not receiving PERS
I have
benefits.
my paycheck right here.
Oh, okay. That is a Norco calculation that we do to spread the UAL, but there's actually no UAL associated with you because you're not in the plan. They're not in the pension plan, correct?
Well, you're taking it out of our check every month.
Well, we're not taking. I'm going to misunderstand. Are they enrolled in PERS?
Yeah, so it depends if they're classic or prep reg.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's not accounted in this calculation. And so by my approximate numbers, by this increase, I think this would be then another additional, I got $15,300.
Yeah, benefits are not included in that
Right.
item. That's just the salary.
And this is consistent with state law. State law treats them differently also. State law has some laws that deal with benefits, which the majority of councils do have benefits and compensation.
But it's still going to be a burden that the city has to pay.
Yes.
Or an employer burden.
Yeah, for fiscal year 24-25, the PEPRA rate, since there's not that many classic, but the PEPRA rate is 0.02%. Last year we had 0 for PEPRA.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of doubled what you take out of mine.
I believe Berwyn's classic. I don't.
Everybody was on the council before 2012 would be classic. So, and then everybody else is Pepper.
Yeah, I had to elect to
Correct.
be in it. So Pepra, it's $42.62 a month.
And we do have some savings for those members that don't take a salary.
Okay. Yeah, this is assuming every council member takes a salary, and that's not the case right now.
I'm just trying to throw it out there. That's a cost that's not accounted for in your report.
Correct.
Okay. Then I had one other question, and it was mentioned to me, whatever action's taken on this, it's a placeholder. And that my understanding is that it would take effect after the election.
Correct.
Okay, but it's not a placeholder till after the election. I mean,
It will take effect
if it's
when the
vote,
ordinance
if you
takes
vote to
effect.
approve, that happens, I mean, today, that would happen after the election.
If you vote to approve, and then there's a second reading, you vote to approve, and then you wait 30 days, the ordinance takes effect. But the ordinance won't provide for a raise until after the council election.
Right.
But it's
I
not a
think
placeholder, it's an
that's-
existing ordinance, it's just the
Right.
raise doesn't kick in until after the election.
But it's not the case that it's a placeholder to after the election, then you can choose whether we do it or not.
And you can always pass another ordinance, canceling that ordinance, or, yeah, you can always change your mind on an ordinance. You can always go down.
Right.
To go up, you have to do it before the next election for it to take effect.
That's all the questions, well, that's all the questions I have right now. Thanks.
Berwin? Do we have any cards?
Yes, I have one speaker card, Jeff Cahan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. When you guys all ran for council, did you run for the money or did you run to serve the community? You didn't know this law was going to be passed, so you ran knowing that it was $550, and you ran anyway. I guess, I don't want to say you got lucky that they finally fixed something that was not fixed for a long time, but 115%, I don't get a 115% raise. I remember a couple of meetings ago, Councilmember Grunmeyer went on a very lengthy discussion about wanting to lower the amount of money, remember, to what was authorized and all that stuff. So, I mean, obviously, that tells me that the council is very cost conscious and we're trying to watch every dollar. And so, as Councilmember Newton mentioned, there's some hidden costs that weren't quite brought up. But yeah, $40,000 a year that's going to be added. Yes, the impact's only half because it doesn't take effect until January 1st. But I don't know. Do you guys want to sit and vote yourself in a 115% raise? I know the law said something about because we're 35,000 and under population, you can go to 950 and then do this extra 5% stuff. Is that right? So why not at least just look like you're having a little bit of restraint and cap yourself at the 950? Or maybe just go with a 50% raise, which would make you at 825. I tried to look at the Riverside report, but those links were very hard to follow. So I looked at the Orange County stuff. The median in Orange County, which you'd think would be higher, is only 692, and the average is only 724. So I don't know. I'll let you guys decide, but I know most of you are here because you want to serve the community. When you got elected, the amount was $550, and you were happy with it at the time. So do you want to increase another $40,000 to the annual budget? I'm kind of disappointed I'm the only one from the public talking about it, but as you always say, Mr. Mayor, this is the podium for the public, and I'm the public, and I'm letting you know that I think you ought to maybe not quite go for the big bite, or maybe phase it in. Give yourself $100 this year, $100 next year, $100, phase it in over time. 115 at once just seems kind of like a lot. So, but that's just me. Thank you.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Bring it back to council for discussion. So I'll start. When I first got on council, we voted to decrease our salary by 50%. And Berwin was here, and we voted not to have phones, we voted not to have mileage, we voted not to have a whole bunch of things. One of the realities is that we must, for me, this is a placeholder. And it was, my whole idea behind this was that, and this isn't to cast aspersions or anything like that, but when you turn in mileage, for example, it takes staff time, the phone. Nowadays, as Berwin and talking to Berwin, you now have a phone that they no longer calculate minutes. In the old days, they calculated minutes. So the idea is that because it has to be passed before this election, that we could then, if we had to, repair it or not keep it or whatever, but if we don't pass it before the election, we can't do it. Here's the reality of the situation. Up here, you have over 100 years of volunteerism. Literally, more than 100 years. And nobody is up here for the money. Nobody. But I'm older, we have an older council, and it is harder now for people to volunteer than it once was. We have trouble getting coaches. We just had Julie come up here specifically to try to get volunteers. The volunteers of Norco built Norco, and they're aging out. They're aging out. And so the issue might be that maybe there's somebody good out there that simply cannot afford to be on city council. And so every one of us has the option to give the money away, not accept the money. There's a whole bunch of things we can do. And I know there's a lot of commissioners that don't keep the money. But in terms of moving forward, for somebody who has a couple of kids and they have something to offer to the council, they've been volunteering like crazy, and suddenly they want to be on council. This is very, very time consuming, particularly in Norco. And so for that amount of money, my idea was at least create a placeholder. I'm not so much married to the amount of money, but what I am married to is I don't want to spend any more on mileage. I think we all should have our own phones, and out of whatever that additional money is, then the phone comes out of that. Any additional funding other than the car. I mean, I kind of resent this. My first 8 years on council, I paid for all my own plane rides, planes, cars, everything. I went to ICSC, paid my own way. Other people can't do that. My mortgage was $1,700 a month, and that was adding $100 to it. Now people have mortgages of $3,000, $3,200. And these are people that have something to offer. And if we do not foster the younger people in this town and find ways to make it so they can function as city and council members, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I'm a total believer in experience. I do not believe in term limits except for employees at a state and federal level. I believe in term limits there, but not at a local level. So for me, that was the idea behind this. You'd get rid of all the phones, all that kind of stuff, which I'm not sure how that even happened because we voted all that away too. I was around, and so was Berwin, and so was Greg, and so was Robin actually, when they used to fight, when council people used to go through people's phone records and say, well, we did this because they're like counting. Oh, you have a gas card here. Well, where did you go? Oh, was that mileage really for that? So what I'm trying to do is, one, not have staff time on these things, but two, at least we may just vote this out next year, but we have to put it in place before the next election. And Jeff, I get your point. You volunteer more than anybody. I totally understand it. But we are a different generation. And the new generation coming up, they're just fighting to buy a friggin' house. They're living in ADUs. They're trying to find ways to live in Norco. They want to live the dream too. So I know we got a couple of commissioners that I think in a couple of years, they're going to be outstanding city council members. And I don't even agree with their side of the aisle, but I watch them and they're awesome. And it would be a shame if we couldn't tap into that because they can't afford to sit in these seats. So that was the whole idea. Again, for me, I don't need the money, but the truth of the matter is somebody else who serve in this seat may need it. So that was my intent behind it. I get the extra cost, I get all that stuff. I mean, at least then we'll have a discussion knowing we can do it. If we have to, we just don't vote it in. Just say, no, we don't have to do it. Or as a council person, just don't take the money. There's always that option. And through the years, we've had many, many council members that have done that. So that was my idea behind this. Council doesn't want to go for it. I'm good with it. Do we have any other discussion? Yeah, please, Berwin.
I'll agree with you on all that, Kevin, because when I got on here, we did have a phone and it was a pain in the neck to have one because he said, like he said, the people were checking your phone bill to see if you used it for personal use and stuff like that. And I was glad when we got rid of it. And I got a plan now that's pretty cheap on my own phone. But Kevin made a remark earlier today that we probably made 40 cents an hour. And that's probably about right, because you figure you have a meeting at 3 o'clock. It takes you got to quit what you're doing, get ready, go to that meeting, that's time, and then you got to, when it's over, you got to go back and start over what you had left. So it's a pain in the neck a lot of times to attend all these meetings and everything. And although I'm not going to benefit for it because Colin said we couldn't get a retroactive on there, but I'll certainly go to support the raise on council salary, and I think it's cheap because I was looking at some of the cities, what they're going to get, what some of them are getting and everything, and I deal with a lot of those people, and I don't know how they can afford to pay them when I think a lot of them's not worth it, but that's just my thought.
Catherine?
Sure, so I'll make a few comments. The first is just I agree with both council members. To Council Member Hannah's comment, our city to the north, Corona, has just voted to increase their compensation after the, whenever it is that they can implement it, because some cities are not charter cities, and so there's a difference in when they can implement their implementation, but their monthly salary for council members went from $816 to $1,900. The city of Eastvale went from $400 to $1,600. The city of Redlands went from $500 to $1,400. Just recently, the Riverside County Board of Supervisors increased $36,000 a supervisor to $226,359. Our district attorney received an increase of $67,000, and our sheriff $73,000. His salary is $347,712. If you were to take this new salary of $1,182, and I believe on the website there was some calculations that were done for the election and kind of how much time it takes, and I think the average was 30 hours is what worked out, 30 hours a week. So if you were to take that monthly salary and divide it by 30 hours a week, we would get a raise, which would result in us being paid $9.85 an hour. The reason that the law came into being was because they wanted to remove barriers, as Mayor Bash said, to make it easier for folks to balance careers and personal obligations, and to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to serve. This is not the economy of 23 years ago. I wish that it was. I wish I could buy a house for what it was 23 years ago, or the interest rate just a few years ago. No one is getting rich off $1,182 a month. Nobody. I can speak from my own personal experience. My first year of council, I did not make a dime. I spent money to be on council because I had to pay for childcare because my husband worked nights. I don't think it's fair to ask people to take their time and their expertise and sacrifice their time away from their family and not at least give them some compensation so they can take their kids to Disneyland, or they can go on vacation, or they can buy something, extra for their house or their hobby or whatever. So absolutely, this job, it is still a sacrifice, even if we were paid $2,000 a month or $3,000. This job takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of dedication. we get put through the ringer a lot, which comes with the sacrifice. So, you know, as our attorney said, we buy event tickets, we pay for gas to go to meetings. I had to take time off work. I served as the chair of the RCRA board, and I had to take time off work to go to those meetings, and I was not reimbursed to be on those meetings. So taking time off work to go to conferences, to go to meetings, if somebody needs childcare. You know, I heard a lot in our survey that we sent out, a lot of people said we want to get our young people involved, we want to see more young people in our government. And so I think that this is the absolute right thing to do. I think that, you know, if someone's in a position where they can donate all their money or they don't need a salary, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. But there is nothing wrong with needing that salary to help take care of your family, yourself, or your children. A lot of that money goes back into the community. Those families are spending that money in our local economy and on activities for youth. And I think that this helps to ensure that everyone who wants to run, it makes it a little more feasible for them to do so, if they so wish to.
Robin? Any other comments? Greg?
Yep. So, you may have touched base on it, but when I first got on council, we used to give a $50 stipend for successor agency meetings. We gave that up. We paid for our own phones, we paid for our own vehicles, we paid for our own gasoline, and I didn't have expectations that I'd ask the residents to help make my mortgage payment, okay, or whatever else. It was public service. It's, you know what the job is and you sign up for it. But I'm going to give you a compromise. What concerns me is that, like I brought up earlier about the additional burden or employer costs, that what if, and we do this for employees and we're considered employees, what if we were to take a car allowance in lieu of $400 or $500 a month to cover our costs for mileage, vehicle, gasoline?
So if it was you could do that if we could justify it as actual cost. That would take a separate council action, and that wouldn't be considered compensation. As long as it's making up for actual costs, it falls under a different statute. So it wouldn't be part of this council compensation. It would require separate action.
Just to jump in there, Berwin, as he alluded to, we went down that road once. I think that all needs to be included. Phone, mileage, car, everything. It's all included in that, whatever that amount is, so that it's covered. And in terms of mortgages and stuff, I don't think anybody's going to pay their mortgage on this, but I'm just trying to look at the future. And so for me, the only way that I continue to support this is if everything's already included in that. There is absolutely, because I don't know what happened, but we passed this. And Berwin will remember it. And again, nothing against anybody who has a phone. I'm not, but it just becomes expensive to have to monitor the mileage and to do those things. And so it's like Lisette sitting there, who's ever in the office, she's going, okay, you know, well, just include it in that entire amount so that person's compensated for that kind of time. And Greg, I totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you that we don't mind, because we came up, and no offense to anybody, we came up different. There's a different mindset in the people that are younger than us. And those are the people that are going to have to fill these seats. I also, it's self-preservation. I intend to die in Norco. And I want to make sure when I go off this council that I have somebody that's going to protect it. I'm not leaving. I intend to live here for the rest of my life. And I want to make sure that when I walk out that door the last time, I'm going to have police and fire, it's going to be fiscally solvent, and there's going to be people there that aren't going to try to build a condominium next door to my house. And and if that means that we have to, and again, this is, for me, this is just a placeholder. We may come in January and, who's ever on council says, screw this, we're not gonna do this, we just vote it out. For me, this is just a placeholder with the proviso that there is no more of those other, now, if you have to have a car to go to, a conference or something, that's different, or fly somewhere, or have a hotel room. But all those other small things need to be included. And that way, just the car thing, how much staff time will that take, to figure all that out? So.
Well, this is why I was asking about allowance. We do it for our employees. You get a $500 car allowance. How you use it is how you use it. But at least it's not subject to additional employer burdens. And that's the compromise that I would make.
I don't think we can do it with this action tonight. If you want to move forward with this action and then keep it as a placeholder to make sure that the timing works out right, I'm happy to bring back analysis discussion of what a car allowance would look like.
If I may try to help, I think what Colin's alluding to is there's a specific, some statutes around how council members specifically are compensated with car allowances as opposed to staff. So staff who have car allowances is pursuant to benefit resolutions or MOUs, and it's just considered a form of pay. So there's no documentation that goes with it. But I'm vaguely recalling there were some rules about council members that if you receive a car allowance, it has to be, like, you have to track your mileage, you have to document it. So I think that's the distinction. But we can bring back further analysis about it. But I think that's it in a nutshell, the distinction.
I know we only had one public commenter tonight, but previously this year or the end of last year, we did have one of the future inductees on Saturday to the Kathy Acevedo Spirit of Norco. Norva Williams came and encouraged us to raise our salary for all of the hard work that we do. People my age, people younger than me, cannot buy a house comparative to the salary that they get paid for. This is not the same world that there was. And the reality is just different. And we can say, well, these young people, they don't do this or they don't do that. But when we look at the numbers, if you look at historically what salaries were, what houses cost, there's a huge discrepancy in that. And so we can go over all of that, but it comes down to, we pay our employees for their time. We value their time. We should value everyone's time. Just because you're a public servant doesn't mean you should be destitute, doesn't mean you shouldn't get paid anything for the service and the value that you're giving to your community. If we want to encourage and make it, appropriate for everyone to be able to run, then increasing the compensation to $1,100, that is still not even close to a bunch of our neighboring cities. It's not even close. Just 23 years, this has not been changed. You think about what inflation has done just in 3. It's crazy.
So actually, it was changed. We went down.
I thought this has been our salary for the last 23 years, Colin.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, because.
So maybe other benefits were cut, but the salary has remained. So, and I have a phone. I have a phone. I don't know what this costs for the city to pay a month, but this was because I was receiving threats when I ran for election. So I got to get a phone for people to call me on. So I hear that there's, consensus on this. This has been a long time coming. This is a hard discussion to have because nobody can come and raise our salaries. We have to do it ourselves. So it doesn't matter how many people stand there and say, do it or don't do it. In the end, we have to do it, right? Like the county board, every council has to do this. This hasn't happened for a very, 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 very long time. And even then, it's a modest increase. Again, you can't live off that council salary. You can't pay a mortgage. Some people couldn't pay, maybe that's a car payment if you go out and buy a new truck.
And why are you fighting so hard for it?
because I think people should
If
be
this
paid for their
additional
time.
money won't do you any good, why are you fighting so hard?
Well, it would do me good. It would do me good. It would do me good. It would do others who run. Maybe it won't do you good. But my point is that increasing it from $550 to $1,180, if we're saying, oh, you know, this is so much money, it's not. And I shouldn't have to sit up here and fight my colleagues so hard to say that we should get paid an appropriate amount and make it about, well, this is about service. Of course it's about service. Even getting paid $1,100, everybody up here is serving the community, working hours and hours and hours. But people shouldn't have to lose money to sit up here. If people have to pay for childcare, if people have to take off work, not everybody, you know, unless we want everyone to be up here who's very wealthy and or retired. I would like to see a range of people who represent our community so we can have good discussions. We can hear from, you know, different pockets of our community. If everybody is up here kind of thinking from the same way, then I don't see that that gets us the best solutions. And so I chose to make that sacrifice. Every person up here did. But it's okay to say that we should be able to pay people a decent salary. And again, $1,100. And so if that's just...
Well, for me, it's a placeholder.
I call for the question.
Do I hear a motion? He called the question.
Move to approve.
Mayor, can I retitle?
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco increasing the compensation of city council members.
Please vote. Colin, I just want to be clear, we just have to have a majority vote. It doesn't have to be a supermajority, correct?
Correct.
The motion passes with Councilmember Newton and Councilmember Grummeyer voting no.
Moving on to 5B, discussion to consider financial participation in bleacher rental costs for Norco Horse Week, Norco Mounted Posse, PRCA Rodeo, and Norco Fair. Lori?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you'll recall, we are in the process of replacing our bleachers at Merino Arena. And during that process of considering that and discussing what sort of bleacher configurations we would go with, working with the three nonprofit groups that the city partners with, which is Horse Week, Norco PRCA Rodeo, Norco Mounted Posse, PRC Rodeo, and the fair, there was a discussion about whether or not we expand the bleacher set. We didn't. We elected ultimately to keep the bleacher set the same size. But there were some conversations about whether or not the city should assist the groups with contributions toward their bleacher rental annually, which they each do. So this is discussed further in your staff report. At the mayor's request, we did get a request from Horse Week to participate in their bleacher rentals for their past event this past April. So at the mayor's request, we convened an Ingalls ad hoc committee consisting of council members Hannah and Grandmeyer to discuss this matter. And that subcommittee is recommending that the city contribute $10,000 annually to each of those three partner organizations to contribute, offset a piece of their cost of bleacher rental. So you saw the Horse Week invoice is attached. I think it's around $33,000 they spent. The recommendation was to provide about $10,000 annually to each group to offset the engineering, the planning, the permitting, and a piece of those costs annually. And that would begin in next year with the 2025 events, so we could anticipate that in next year's budget. So with that, and I've also provided for you, just for your reference, attachments, the attached promotional leases with each of the three groups, which were updated last year. Those are 5-year agreements that were put in place, and the invoice, so that you have that. So with that, we're available for questions or further conversation.
Irwin? Anything? Questions?
No, Robin and I was the one that discussed this.
Yeah, we'll go to Robin next.
Committee. Everything, I agree with what it says here.
Robin? Questions, Catherine?
Yeah, so I had asked our city manager a question. In the staff report, it talks about the estimated value of support that the city provides. And it lists $50,000 already for Horse Week, $28,000 for the Norco Fair, and $5,000 for the Norco Mounted Posse Rodeo. And so my question was, does that include all of our staff time at City Hall? You know, our director of facilities and other staff that are working to make sure that these events happen. And the answer I received was no, that it doesn't include those indirect costs, but it does include staff that are at these events, working these events, whether they're full-time or part-time.
Greg? Anything? Any public comments?
Yes, Mayor. The first speaker is Greg Bowen.
Hi, Greg.
How you doing? Every little bit will help. I'm on pretty much every committee, and the bleachers kept getting higher. I've preached this before. They keep getting higher and higher. Our cost keeps getting higher and higher. What the city sees when we put on a rodeo, when we put on the Horse Week Rodeo, when we put on the fair, the city comes alive. I mean, everybody goes to it. Everybody talks about it. The volunteers, we're like you were saying earlier, we're losing volunteers, so we're having to pay more for security because we're not getting enough people out there to help us out. We're having to pay. We're now thinking about paying for parking to pay people to park our cars because we can't get enough volunteers to do this. All these costs accumulate, and the next thing you know, we're paying more for bleachers. And anything we can get, we really appreciate it. And you take the Horse Week, they don't use as many bleachers as the rodeo does. The rodeo probably uses the same amount as the fair does, but the fair moves the bleachers for different locations. So it would be fair if it was straight across the board when you're donating to each group. We don't draw as much money in for the rodeo, and Horse Week makes more money. The fair is longer. They're all separate, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, each event gives back to the city. I mean, you look at all the restaurants, you look at all the Boot Barn, you look at Thrifty Horse, you look at Rodeo Burger, you look at Rodeo Cafe. These places are packed, and all that revenue is coming back into the city, and which is great. But we just want to keep putting forward and putting a nice event on, but it's getting harder and harder to do so because it's costing us a lot. And 40 seconds left. We appreciate the city helping us, putting this events on. But when you look at other cities and what they do, like take Ukaipa, for instance, they give seed money to put their rodeo on. They put on concerts, big concerts. And yeah, we're talking apples and oranges here, but we're just asking for a little help. And it'd be whatever we can get, we really appreciate it. And we thank all the help that everybody does for us. I mean, I'm looking at the board, I'm preaching to the choir.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Grunmeyer.
Grunmeyer. I used to live near a Grunmeyer.
Yeah, they've been there. So number one, I want to say thank you. I was on that committee when we talked about adding the bleachers, and it was, to me, it was amazing because bleacher cost is one of our biggest costs until now. As Greg mentioned, we had a little bit of a snafu last year, and so we're paying $30,000 to have a company come park cars. So that's another hit. What I don't know if everybody realizes, but both Horse Week and the fair are both nonprofit. Everything we make goes back to the city. So this isn't like we're making money to store it. everything that we do goes back, whether it's FFA, Boy Scouts. Horse Week bought 2 golf carts and 3 gators last year, right? After the thing. That went to the city. That's not for them. That's for the city. These are costs that we're using this money for. So it's not just to make money. The bleachers is something that the city should provide, right? And so for us to have to add another $30,000 to $40,000 in bleachers is a hit. That's hit money that goes from that takes away from the other community events that we offer money to. Yes, it's a cost of doing business, but as was said, Julie said earlier, volunteerism is hard. We are getting new volunteers in the fair committee right now. We are growing very well, which is extremely exciting. The problem is we're not getting the groups to help. So we don't have ROTC. We tried softball for 2 years, and I'm not talking bad about softball. They could not get the volunteers to park people. And when CHP shuts down the rodeo because we shut down the 15 freeway, that's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's a good thing for Norco. It is. Everything that we make goes back to Norco. So giving us that money basically is going back to an organization. So it's not like you're giving it to the committees. You know, we give all that money back. So does Horse Week, so does Posse. They do a lot. Posse generates a lot of business in Norco, from the bars to Boot Barn to all these facilities where they got to go buy clothes. After the rodeo, you go to the bar. You go to, you go out and have a good time. At the fair, it brings people in. They come in, they have to buy gas. Maybe they leave, the fair and they go out to dinner somewhere. So this isn't just money that is just wasted. This is money that's coming back and then giving back to the communities. I think we gave away close to 40-some thousand last year, 50,000 to groups. So I just want to say thank you and appreciate everything you guys can do to help us out.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi. As treasurer for the Horse Week, last year we gave to groups $60-some thousand, plus we spent $117,000 on the gators and the golf carts that now belong to the city. Every bit of money that we earn, except for our seed money for next year, goes to your senior center, to animal control, to NART, to FFA, a softball group, the football, pony club, all of our local groups. This year, we have voted to give $88,000 away. If you pay $10,000 towards the bleachers, that could be another $10,000. We could get close to giving $100,000 back, most of which goes to the city, specific city groups, and a lot to our youth groups, to our seniors. So think of it as additional investment. Also, I'm sure you folks know, but Saddle Sore and the places here in town, they look so forward to Horse Week, the fair, and the Posse Rodeo. Those are their biggest. Everybody's on duty those weekends. Nobody gets the day off. Everybody's on duty. They are so excited when these events are coming up that they are going to be so busy and do well. So you're really helping, as well as, like John says, the Boot Barn and so on. So I hope you will support us with the 10,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
We have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Closing public comments, bringing you back to council for discussion. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Your microphone.
I will. You're saying you have to pay a salary to those people to come and park cars? I mean, I remember for years, the volunteer groups would get paid, like a donation or something like that, but you have to guarantee somebody so much money to come and do that?
So what we've always done in the past, we've brought in groups, and same thing with all the other groups. We tell them, hey, we'll give you this amount of money if you help us. It's a donation. We're a nonprofit.
Right.
So we cannot get enough people to park cars, and so it blocks 6th Street to the point to where it.
Yeah, I understand that.
So
but-
we had bids. We've been through, our parking committee has gone through numerous bids. And we have anywhere from 20,000 to 45,000. We went with a professional group hoping to alleviate the problem on 6th Street. So yes, it is guaranteed money. It is a contract that we have to sign for
Well,
$32,000.
The churches don't do it anymore, or?
No. We tried last year. We went with one group 2 years ago, my first year. Second year, we went back to the group. They guaranteed us. Unfortunately, the problem is you just can't get the parents to help.
Right.
And you can't have 13, 14, 15-year-old kids trying to park cars when you have people cussing at them, spitting at them, it didn't work. So we're going to try something new because we have to bring the cars in and park them correctly.
Well, I know it's always been a problem, but I didn't know you're just gonna have to guarantee them so much,
Yeah, it's a company. It's
money.
PCI.
But
They park cars all over California.
I remember a couple of times up here at the fair, because it was so hot, that the group started parking and they left an hour later, didn't have anybody to park out there because it was too hot and people were too mean to them.
Right, and that's the problem.
But that's all I wanted to know. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Anyone else? Based on Robin and Berwin's recommendation, I make a motion to approve this.
Please vote.
There it goes.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Moving on to public hearings, 6A. Director Robles, public hearing, city-initiated amendment Title 15 of the Norco Municipal Code. Oh, there you are.
Here I am. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, so I gotta turn around. Right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is agenda item 2024-04. And this is a code amendment to the Norco Municipal Code, basically Chapter 15, to, in a nutshell, clarify and expand the provisions for large animal keeping corrals, or what it can be identified as a shelter, that are exempt from a building permit. Currently, under our municipal code, we do have a provision for exemptions of corrals, but they can't have any walls and they can't be have a permanent foundation. So what this code amendment is proposing to do is to amend the code to allow stalls or corrals to be allowed to have up to 3 walls enclosed, and that will also include guidance to be able to secure these structures or corrals, excuse me, should there be a wind movement, and so they don't end up in your neighbor's yard pretty much. What is, just in a nutshell, what is currently allowed under the municipal code right now is basically just a cover, open on all sides, and it doesn't make provision for a footing or anything of that nature. What's being envisioned with this code amendment is basically allowing these stalls to be enclosed at least up to 3 sides. And the reason for this is to be able to facilitate animal keeping, increase the level of animal keeping to where people don't have to come in and get a permit. But yet it facilitates and improves the animal keeping capabilities. In a nutshell, what the proposal will do, and again, I'd like to point out, I did include in your staff report, is resolutions that were passed several years ago to, they had details on the provision for, these portable stalls in the past. So what's being amended, just in a nutshell, is item 10 of chapter 15 of the Norco Municipal Code, section 15.01008. And it's identifying a 12 by 24 foot large animal keeping roofed and side covered corral. These corrals have to be independently supported, no more than 12 by 24 or 288 square feet.
They are, let's see, 1 foot one corral per animal unit allowed on the property based on the underlying zone. These corral, here's where it says it can provide up to 3 sides enclosed, provided, and we go backtrack a little bit here, provided that at least on the long side, they have an opening to allow wind to go through. That way, again, it doesn't pick it up and then end up in your neighbor's yard. And then they cannot exceed a wall height of 8 feet or total height to the peak 14 feet. They don't have to meet, they're exempt from meeting the required 10-foot separation, but they can't be, each corral cannot be permanently affixed to each other, or, because then it becomes a larger structure, but you have to have at least a minimum, like a 1-inch separation between the structures. And let's see, but this does not negate the 5-foot setback. In other words, they still have to meet the distance from the property line, or 5 foot. And it goes on to provide, to indicate some ideas as far as how to secure them to the ground. And one of the provisions is that it could be a fence post style type of footing, or whatever else is necessary to secure them to the ground. So again, so they don't fly away and end up in the neighbor's property. And finally, they must be constructed of weather-resistant materials, including steel, like pipe, irons, sheet metal, etc. And they have to be maintained so that they don't, they follow property maintenance standards. So with that, concluding, Planning Commission did review this. As presented, it's being recommended for approval, and staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the ordinance as proposed for this code amendment. And with that, I will conclude and answer any questions. Thank you.
Does any council person have questions? I have one. So, and I don't know if it pertains to this, but there's a situation in my neighborhood where somebody built a cover and they put it right next to the fence, so the water runs onto the neighbor's yard into their pool. Is that allowed?
No. Should be 5 feet.
Because the neighbor complained, and this was a few months ago, the neighbor complained, called me, I had them call the city, and the city said, no, that was legal. So it's not, it has to be 5 feet.
It should be 5 feet, yes.
Any public comments?
Yes, one speaker card, Bill Naylor.
Evening, Council. I'm very supportive of this code change, but I would like you to consider one minor modification to this. I've given some thought to it and talked to some people, and it seems like it might be a valid concern that we have. On the number D, it says the corrals cannot exceed 14 feet in height at the roof peak and 8 feet of 8 feet in height to the top of the corral fence. I'd like you to consider one modification to that, to change it to 10 feet instead of 8 feet. Because again, it's not only the regular sized horses we have in town, but we've got people that have camels and different things. The extra 2 feet, I think, would be appropriate. I know in my barn, the lowest part in my barn that got approved by conditional use permit and such was 10 feet. I like the extra elevation, and with the heat that we've got, it's nice to have a little bit of extra airflow. So I'd just like you to consider that one minor change. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
No further speaker cards, Mayor.
Bring you back to council. I like that. I like that modification. How does council feel about that? Is that a issue, Alma?
Well, I think the issue that does come to mind just on the surface is that, again, with the 8 foot, your staff is concerned that, without having further research as far as requiring some kind of structural, when a wall gets taller than 8 feet, you want to make sure that the footing is adequate. And again, that comes into play. That's where the only concern. I mean, we can definitely go back and take a look and see and then come back, but that is the concern as far as.
Yeah, and I guess, Bill, I know your barn, it's professionally constructed, correct? And I've seen not a few of those barns rolling down the road. So I removed that. So.
Yeah, well, one, I'd like to thank council member, Hannah Alman, our previous building official, for working on this. I don't think we had any heartburn on the 8-foot height or the 12-foot height. This was more of making a statement that a 12 by 24 roof only is, you don't need a permit to put it up. And there was a situation where a person came in and wanted to enclose 3 sides, like this example shown as a loafing shed. And they were told to take a $4,000 or a $3,800 variance to go to the planning commission. So this is why we address this point, so that you can just enclose it on 3 sides, and then we added the little footings only to just keep turnover on the structure. I honestly think if you're 8 foot 1 inch or 8 foot 6 inches, nobody's going to come out and measure that. But for a taller horse, you're going up to 12 foot high on the open side, so that should cover pretty much all of them except the giraffes. I think just leave it the way we have it.
Anyone else? I make a motion to approve.
Harry title?
Yep.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, approving Code Amendment 2024-04, a city-initiated amendment to Title 15, Section 1501-080 pertaining to work exempt from permit, to update, clarify the provisions and standards for large animal keeping corrals that do not require a building permit in the City of Norco, thereby superseding City Council Resolutions 9671 and 9811.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Calling up Chief Otterman, 6B, confirming report of costs for spring and fall weed abatement fiscal year 2023-24. I'll bet you're tired, huh? How many fires have you been to? Oh, that's right. Did you hang
I just
them?
getting my first day back, so good
Did-
evening,
did you
Mayor.
ha- did you hang
Members
them?
of the city council, what's that?
Did you hang them?
I won't talk about it right now. I'm just glad to be back to work, how about that? So,
Yeah.
okay, so the weed abatement for fiscal year 23-24 has been completed. City contractors weed abated 8 parcels, 4 in the fall, and I believe 4 in the spring. So you guys are looking for the cost amount? Yeah, you have a total of $3,430 on 8 properties. The invoices were sent out beginning of July, and payment is supposed to be received by the end of July, July 26th.
Any questions for Chief Otterman? Any public comments?
No public comment, Mayor.
Closing public comments. Back to council for discussion. Any discussion? This is a adopt resolution, so I make a motion we adopt this resolution confirming the report costs of abatement of weeds and hazardous vegetation as a public nuisance and imposing special assessment liens on vacant parcels within the city. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
You have a second?
Please vote.
Short and sweet. Good job.
Yep. No worries.
Yeah, we had no public comment. The motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6C, calling upon Engineer Nelson, Public Hearing Code Amendment 2024-07, City Initiated Amendment to the Norco Municipal Code, Title 15, Chapter 15.60, Floodplain Management, updating this chapter for compliance with FEMA requirements.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a code amendment to bring into compliance our floodplain management system. It's required as part of our obligations to allow our residents to actually have get flood insurance through FEMA. So as part of this discussion, there was six major, but a couple key changes as follows. They updated definitions, which were not too crazy. They expanded duties and responsibility of flood administrator. Updated development permit requirements, enhanced construction standards, updated standards for subdivisions, homes, and recreational vehicles, and additional severability provisions. Oh, one more, updated appeal board procedures. So nothing too crazy. It's very akin to adopting a building code. It's necessary to ensure that residents that are located in a floodplain can gain insurance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Sam? Greg?
How often do we update our floodplain maps for our residents?
It's not very often. In fact, there's a process that you go through called a CLOMAR, which is a conditional letter of map revision, and then a LOMAR. Those things were reviewed at the city level and then passed on to the feds. Normally, these are major facility changes. So things like the South Norco Channel that was done back 4 or 5 years ago,
right,
and the current North Norco Channel have those associated with them. Actually, we do also have a project that's coming up as part of our CIP, the West Norco Channel Extension, which is actually going to also require CLOMAR and LOMAR to take out things like Kipps Corner Park, portions of Dales Drive, and Park Ridge out of the floodplain.
Okay. So on a simpler level, when a resident comes in to make application for permits or anything like that, they have to note like what year, 100-year, whatever floodplain they're in?
No, we actually have the maps on hand, so I can check that.
Okay, so those are available for residents?
Absolutely, and in fact, most of Norco is not in the 100-year floodplain. So we know the specific areas that are of interest, and we make sure, my staff looks at it, and we ensure that they do what they need to do as far as building up or whatnot.
And we provide that information?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay, thank you, Sam.
Catherine? Robin? Do we have any public comments?
No public comments, Mayor.
Opening and closing public comments, bring back to council for action. I make a recommendation to adopt the first reading of ordinance numbered 1121, amending chapter 15.60, floodplain management of the Title 15 of the Norco Municipal Code, Code Amendment 2024-07. Do I hear a second?
Can I read the title?
Yes.
Title on the agenda is very close, but from a craftsman's point of view, it's ordinance number 1121, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, amending chapter 15.60, floodplain management of Title 15 of the Norco Municipal Code to align with updated FEMA guidelines and to improve flood resilience.
Let's vote.
Please vote. And motion, I'm sorry.
It's easy for you to say.
Motion passes.
Yeah, there you go. Spit it out. All right, number 7. City staff, any comments, questions, free money? Lisette, yes.
I just want to remind the community that the nomination period has opened for city council seats. We have 3 seats open. The first deadline would be August 9th to pull papers for council member. And if an incumbent does not file by August 9th, then it will extend till August 14th for non-incumbents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? City attorney?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
City manager? Berwin? Greg?
Just one thing, I'll try to do this fairly quick. Last week or the week before at our rural meeting, we talked about the trail markers that rural installed in different locations, and the disrepair that they're in. So went ahead and relocated where those trail markers are, and I went to Corridon staging area to take measurements of the plexiglass and how they're all just scratched up, graffitied, sun-baked, whatever. And then got thinking about, and I just wanted to kind of plant this idea that they should be wrapping up in the next couple, 3 months, hopefully, the work on the bluff stabilization and turn back the staging area to us. And it's going to take staff a lot of work. You know, we're talking about volunteers and things like that. The one thing that, with that, at the staging area, outside of the restrooms, everything you see there was either donated by individuals, businesses, and groups. And that's from the holding pen, the trees. Bonnie installed the irrigation. Valley City Fence donated all kinds of stuff out there. And I'm thinking about maybe give we were talking about these mount-up blocks, right, that we're going to have in different locations around the city, and we'll learn more about that later on, but maybe give them an opportunity and some time to do some fundraising, and then maybe try to get all the groups back together to kind of refurbish the staging area, and sometime in the late fall or whenever. But it's going to need a lot of tune-up. So I just wanted to just throw that out there.
That's great.
That idea. That's all I had.
Catherine? Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have one thing. At least I have been getting several complaints about speeding. We've talked about it a couple of times from the dais as well in the last month or so. So I would like to agendize a discussion if the city of Norco can partner with some of our community groups to come up with a safe driving campaign that would integrate all modes of transportation. So our bicycle riders, our pedestrians, our equestrians, and our drivers. Some of us old timers around town might remember those "whoa" signs. So maybe reinvigorating or taking a look at what that might look like, and if we can bring some attention to the need for folks to slow down in town. So.
Second. Any discussion?
Please vote.
Can't. I closed my thing.
Mayor Bash, what is your vote?
Yes. Well, I seconded.
And then Councilmember Hannah? Okay. Got it. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Two things. One, Casey's ride was, boy, that was Norco at its finest. That was absolutely amazing. I saw Greg and Fia, and I know Berwin was there. I didn't see him. I saw Greg Bowen. I mean, it was just phenomenal. I guess they raised $14,000. It was awesome. And so I was very, very proud of our community. And then I want to close the meeting tonight in honor of a firefighter who lost his life to an assassin trying to protect his two children. His name was Corey Comparatori. And I want to have a moment of silence to remember him. This meeting is adjourned.